Alright, so this is a reading of an essay that I wrote, and basically I had to choose a social movement that wasn't discussed in our course and discuss it, predict its future, point out its goals, point out the main organizations and what they're doing to attempt to remedy the social problem that they've identified, blah blah blah. Doesn't have a title. My apologies. There were several social movements we discussed in this advanced sociological theory course, but it would have been impossible to look at them all. We examined the three major social movements of human history, the movements for gender equality, democracy, and labor rights. However, among the thousands of social movements present today, one piqued my interest above and beyond any other, the movement for animal rights. It is only natural that I have such interest in the animal rights movement. I've been vegetarian for over a decade, I have a dog and a lizard, and I've had many pets in the past. I believe in the protection and conservation of wildlife, and I'm an animal lover at heart. The animal rights movement addresses many social problems in the world today. In a nutshell, activists are attempting to change the moral status of animals in society. It is similar to the women's movement in the sense that animals are seen as objects or property, as women once were. Throughout this essay, I look at the parallels between these two movements. I've identified several specific problems that the animal rights movement is trying to combat. The first is the largest, the cruelty and abuse of animals. One aspect of cruelty is the use of animals in laboratory testing. Animal rights activists want the standards that pertain to humans in the lab to also apply to animals. Another aspect of cruelty is the fur and leather industry. The practices of this industry are seen as cruel, and many animal rights activists seek to shut down these businesses entirely. Yet another aspect of cruelty and abuse is the use of animals for human entertainment, like dog racing, cockfighting, and even circuses. These activities are seen as cruel because the animals are not living their natural lives, and many of these animals are physically abused, neglected, and killed for the sake of entertaining humans. The final aspect of cruelty is the human consumption of animals for food. Don't misunderstand me, not all animal rights activists are vegetarian, but many do view the practices of the mass production of meat as cruel and inhumane. Blah, blah, blah. I've worked at it. Yeah, I don't want to talk about my work. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Many animal rights organizations strongly promote veganism and vegetarianism to combat these cruelties. Secondly, there is the social problem of overdevelopment and the destruction of the environment. Each of these has an enormous impact on the animal kingdom, and this branch of the animal rights movement seeks to halt the development that threatens animals and their habitats and to promote the preservation of the environment. Probably the largest name in animal rights is PETA, or the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, an organization in the forefront of the movement. According to their website, their organization has over 1 million members, earning it the title of the largest animal rights organization in the world. Their mission statement is that PETA is dedicated to establishing and protecting the rights of all animals, whether cute or ugly, endangered or not. This organization focuses on the aspects of cruelty and abuse of animals. PETA has been fairly successful in some of their efforts because they have the powerful ability to draw media attention to their cause. The largest group focusing on the environmental sector of animal rights is the NWF, or the National Wildlife Foundation. They boast a membership of 4 million and have been working to protect America's wildlife since 1936. This group works for the preservation of wildlife, both flora and fauna, and has had many successes in its history. Since social movements are a form of collective behavior, characterized by spontaneity, an extremist group is apt to form within any social movement. As compromise fails, violence becomes increasingly likely. The animal rights movement is no different. There's formed a more radical and violent group within the animal rights movement, the Animal Liberation Front. Much like the Earth Liberation Front, the ALF claims to be a non-violent organization that purposefully causes economic damage to those who profit from the misery and exploitation of animals. While their website stresses that they take great precautions to never harm any animals or humans, they are a fairly destructive group, much like their counterpart, ELF. Because collective behavior is characterized by spontaneity, movements can continue on in a given direction even when it becomes apparent that it is the wrong one. The ALF even have a disclaimer on their website that some of their actions may be illegal. I do not want to pass judgment, but I have to wonder how this group can be taken seriously. It is important to recognize that many more people consider themselves animal rights activists without belonging to any of the three or similar organizations discussed above. One distinctive feature of a movement is that it is always more encompassing than any other organization. It is not necessary to belong to an organization to participate in a social movement. Okay, I feel that this movement is growing more global every day. PETA expanded internationally in 1994, opening branches in the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands. Just as the women's movement is making its way around the globe, so too is the animal rights movement. The more that we treat other human beings as our equals, the stage becomes more open for issues like animal rights. However, I would not consider this a global social movement at the present time. It seems to be rooted in places where the women's movement has been more successful in more democratic societies. Okay, now I would like to make some predictions about where the animal rights movement will be in a decade. I personally see the future of this movement as bright, meaning that it will both carry on and achieve some goals. What is interesting about this movement in particular is that it does not exclusively target political institutions. I feel that this movement is, too, designed to bring about significant reforms and major transformations in the functioning of an assortment of institutions, similar to the major social movement for gender equality. They target fast food restaurants, chain stores that carry fur and leather, cosmetic companies, industrial farmers, logging companies, and many more institutions. I feel that this social movement will continue to make gains in the political arena as it is firmly rooted in democratic societies. What is interesting about many current democratic societies, including this one, is that they emerged as the outcome of successful revolutionary movements, thus making political dissent a part of the system. What is interesting about this is that... Ooh, I said that twice, that's kind of nerdy. Anyway, okay, what is interesting about this is that democratic nations are built to allow for dissent in social movements, and democratic systems need them at the risk of becoming undemocratic. Because the system is designed in this way, the animal rights movement is allowed to pursue its goals. I also feel that the animal rights movement will become increasingly global in the next 10 years. The movement is far from global now, but as the women's movement makes its way around the globe, I feel that this movement will follow in its footsteps. Also, the environmental aspect of this movement is already deeply concerned with global issues. Because we share the same planet, what happens on the other side of the world is becoming increasingly important to us, and animal rights activists striving for the protection of animal habitats and the environment should see many successes in the next decade. I hope. Overall, what I found most interesting about the animal rights movement is its similarities with the women's movement. Women were once viewed as the property of men, and currently animals are viewed as the property of humans. One day soon, animals may have the same rights in the laboratory as human beings, and everyone may agree that wearing fur is wrong. Although I highly doubt the whole world will stop eating meat, I think it is very possible that the world could eliminate entertainment activities like cockfighting. All in all, I think that the animal rights movement is here to stay, and hopefully the world's future is one of equality and respect. What a good paper. I guess. So again, disclaimer, I didn't use any of my citations, so you can't quote me. Sorry, you can't use any of this material for your own research, but I guess if for some reason you wanted to know, like some of the books that I read or some of the articles that I looked at for this or websites or whatever, you can write me an email and I'll send it out to you.